The last thing a boater wants is to have a bilge full of water, but that was exactly what happened not so long ago. Only a few days, or in fact a day or so after I'd had the problem with in the head with the toilet inlet unexpectedly being found to be open and gushing water in when I thought I'd closed the inlet off. I woke up one morning and I seemed to be hearing snoring, a regular snoring, very gentle snoring, and I thought, well, that's weird. There's no one else on the boat. How can that possibly be happening? Anyway, obviously I got up and I looked around to try and find, locate where the noise was coming from. I mean, it clearly wasn't a person. But then I found that when I looked in the engine compartment, the fresh water pump was very, 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 very slightly turning on pretty regularly, making the snoring noise. So, oh my God, if you've got the fresh water pump keeps coming on like that, clearly there's a leak of water somewhere. So I immediately thought about the hot water tank system that I'd been dealing with, changing the element there, and I thought I'd tighten that up really well. Anyway, I had a look in the bilges just to be on this, just as a safety thing, and to my horror, it was so full of water. And then I looked at the tanks and the cold water tank, the fresh water tanks, and they were both empty. They had completely emptied out over the last couple of days before that. And sure enough, when I looked down into the cockpit locker and had a look at the connection that I'd made with the hot water tank element, it clearly just was not quite tightened sufficiently. A tiny, tiny leak was happening, very, very tiny, but obviously over 2 days, enough to drain both water tanks. So anyway, so that led to the next problem, which was, of course, to clean out the bilge. Well, the bilge is looking a lot cleaner than it was a short while ago. I've got rid of pretty well all the water in there. The red is actually from the cooling water that was released, obviously, when the engine was being dealt with recently. And although I've got several pumps in here, look at my bilges and the pumps there. I've got 2 pumps. Well, in fact, I've got 3. But the two main ones, only one was working. Anyway, I feel that they're maybe the strainers getting a bit clogged up. So that's another job to be done now, added to the list of jobs that I've got. I seem to have so many jobs that I'm trying to get done. Still quite a few yet to happen. But, slowly things are being ticked off the list. But it seems to me that as fast as I tick jobs off, other even bigger jobs appear and needing to be dealt with urgently. So, yep, that's the present situation. One really good thing that happened some time ago now, actually, was that the mast track insert, the PTFE insert, that enables the main sail to drop in no time, was replaced. The old one had to be pulled out, the new one inserted, and Bob's your uncle, that was it. It was done. So a lot of effort, mind you, from Ryan and Chris, who came to do it, but well done them. That's all finished with, and a really good job to have done. The next thing that, of course, I was really happy about was finding my door hinges, the half hinges that should be on the doors that were returned to me in Vancouver recently, and I was searching for those hinges and could not find them wherever I looked. No one here seemed to have anything similar. So now it was on to my next job, one of many. The deck shower at the sugar scoop at the stern was waiting to be dealt with. So here we've got part of my new deck shower system. The old one, the pipe and the connections were totally gunged and corroded. So, and I didn't seem to have the shower end of it. There should have been an extension, but I don't know where that's got to. So many thanks to Carl yet again for spending quite a bit of time helping me out here, ferrying me around between one place and another, and in between Svensson's and West Marine and Panada, I think it was, a hardware store in Alameda. Between those 3 places, I managed to find all the connections that I needed. Of course, the point being that here in North America, the fittings are different from in Europe. So BSP, British Standard Pipe Fitting, I think that stands for, is different from what do they call it, NPS or MPT, because they use a lot of tapered fitting here in North America. Anyway, so finally, I'm really happy to say that this is now going to connect nicely onto my existing shower fitting on by the sugar steps on the by the transit at the back of the boat. And this is actually the extension part. There's going to be 2 bits so that they'll come, so they're long enough basically to make it easy to use. And I've got another option of another extension again, if I want to be actually in the cockpit as opposed to standing on the back of the boat, at the stern there. So that's another really, really good job. Spent quite a lot of time, amazingly, spent several hours trying to sort this out. Really, really happy then that it's happened. Thanks a lot, Carl. Thanks again. Here's another little item that I'm really quite pleased about. It's only a little thing, but again, took quite a bit of finding and sorting out the connections. But that's going to be my anchor wash, which is going to be really, really handy when the anchor comes up gunged with a load of mud or silt, which refuses to get away, really sticky stuff sometimes. I'm going to be able to wash it off in no time. That's going to be such a useful little item. So I'm really, really pleased to have sorted that one out as well. Slowly, we are doing quite a few things, but you know, it's the little things that I'm managing to get done, and then the big things seem to be adding up. So anyway, this is a lovely thing to think that that's been sorted now, finally. Really lovely to enjoy cleaning off the anchor so very easily with a spray hose. And here we see the leak on the engine, and which Carl was going to deal with the saltwater crystals on the outside, were the sign of the cracked gasket that he was going to deal with. Well, here's the engine still waiting to be finished with. Carl came by and took away moved the alternator on top here to take it off its bracket, which has been remade so that the belt doesn't touch the main central shaft of the engine as it rotates. The belt there was the big belt from the alternator down to here was rubbing quite often, and I was having a lot of black dust on the front of the engine here. So that's been adjusted. Hopefully that belt will not touch anywhere in future. There's also, of course, a little belt on the engine, the motor alternator, which is probably going to be, well, that's the one, the V belt. You can see all the toothed part on the inside of that belt. The other one has straight grooves in it. It's what they call a serpentine. So I'm still waiting, 2 weeks I think now, for that to be finished off, because 3 hoses are being replaced. One was being rubbed on by the alternator bracket. Interestingly, if we hadn't taken the bracket away, that hose was going to be gone through quite soon with chafe. So that's being replaced. Another one and another, 3 hoses altogether. Plus, of course, the serpentine, the new serpentine belt for the alternator. So that's still waiting to be done. So I've got a bit of work, mind you. The engine is not looking that clean, so I'm going to try and clean it up. And underneath, you can see it's absolutely horrible. Normally that's spotless, with a white pad down there or some paper to absorb any odd little drips, but that's obviously got an awful lot of oil on it. And then over here, on the left there, you can see there's some liquid, so I've got a bit of cleaning up to do so that when the engine's put back together again, a new heat exchanger was needed. That area had a cracked gasket, so that's being dealt with. And also, of course, that oil sensor screaming problem that I had coming down the coast from Near Bay, Cape Flattery, down to here, to San Francisco. The little switch for that, for the sensor, which must have been 40, is going to be replaced as well. So about 3 different problems at least on the engine, then generally being looked at anyway. So a little bit of work to be done there as well, but still waiting. Hopefully sometime next week that will get seen to. Just showing the alternator, the secondary alternator, that is, bracket that was added to the engine to support the secondary alternator. And as you can see, it was all adapted to make sure that the alternator's belt wasn't touching anywhere, as it has been, rubbing a little bit, and I was further getting black dust on the front of the engine. So now that's been adapted by the metalworker here in Berkeley Marine Centre, and then of course it was then cleaned up, and so now I spent a bit of time the other day giving it a good couple of coats of paint to try to protect it from going rusty again, and that's actually the adjusting part from which I can adjust the tension on the belt. So hopefully when that goes back in place, the belt will no longer rub anywhere, and I won't get all the black dust on the front of the engine.